Transportation System and D.A. Griffin Construction for the Axe Facility Replacement Project. And if there's, at this time, and we all have a copy of the contract, so. Oops, no, I don't get my microphone. So at this time, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the contract? Or would there be any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions. If
yes, sir.
It's appropriate to ask them at this time.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right. And I won't go down the whole laundry list, but I will start with one. I'm not familiar with D.A. Griffin Construction Company, and I'd like to hear what are the qualifications, experiences, and reputation of the company.
Yes, sir. At this time, would Mr. Griffin like to approach the podium and answer a few questions?
Sure. To the best of my ability. So I am David Griffin. Lived here in Anderson County my whole life. Been in the construction business for 18-ish years. Our business is primarily in the agriculture market up to date, but we do have interest in pursuing government type work. We don't have, sir, we do have all the licensing and what am I trying to limits to do this project. We have local support with some different entities that can help us kind of guide us along the way. But we guarantee we'll get you a project completed to satisfactory levels.
And just one additional follow-up question on that. Have you ever done a government building before?
No, sir.
This will be the first?
This will be the first.
Okay, thank you.
But we look forward to doing it.
If I may add, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do have an individual that's assisting you that has done government contracts,
That's
correct?
Yeah.
I think Mr. Thomas is helping him facilitate this project, who built numerous schools in this county. So I'm sure he's got several government contracts under his belt.
Yeah. Mr. Bruce Thomas with American Builders is going to walk with us hand in hand throughout the entire project, and again assure that it's completed to satisfactory levels.
Mr. Chairman, what involvement has the state had with the contract? Have they reviewed it and approved it, or do they need to?
Well, at this point, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The state has been involved in this, and also Tanya has been very diligent on working with I said D.H. Griffin. That was another contract that we looked at. I'm sorry, with David Griffin Company. The state has been involved. Is it DOT or DMV? I can't remember which one it was. DOT. I get the two mixed up a lot of times when I do it. They went through from the very beginning. First, the job was bid. We were glad to get him to bid on it. No one else would take the job either. And that's no reflection on you by any means whatsoever. Right. We're appreciative of you bidding on the job. I've been involved in this contract since its inception. Right here, the final version right here, and this has been. I've worked closely with Mr. Newton, Philip Newton, getting this taken care of as well. So, but Tanya has been involved from the very beginning with the plans and working with the state and everything. Sure. And they submitted some suggestions to some of the plans that are going to be used. Right. This is a design build contract. Right. Or a build design contract. I'm not sure which one it goes. I think it's DB. So they are the contractor. Now they are going to get the architect. They're going to work with the architect, do the RFQs, make sure that the building is up to specs, and then we go through. There are protections for the county in here to make sure that it has to meet certain specifications. Sure. Before it's paid out and all that stuff. So, yeah. And through process, they'll have to be inspected on things. All right.
I don't want to hog all the questions, so I'll pause now and give someone else an opportunity, but I do have some additional questions.
Just one, and I will say this document is very detailed, but I guess the one thing that I'm wondering about now, based on what I just heard,
Is there any feedback of any kind as to why no one else was interested in the contract?
The job's too small.
Too small, okay.
And from what I understand, we met the requirements for advertising, and that, you know, when people had the opportunity within the requirement that we had to advertise.
So the board will know, Tanya even went above and beyond when we, under North Carolina law, when you have only, under these circumstances, you only have one bidder, you have to re-advertise it and do some other things. Well, she did all that. Then she even presented it to the DOT, and they made sure that they got special provisions for it to say, hey, look, this is the only person who bid on it. This, you know, he met the qualifications, his licenses and stuff like that. He has someone else, Mr. Thomas, Bruce Thomas, is it?
Yeah, Bruce.
Who is also working with him, and they're, it's more like a team, isn't it?
Yes.
Kinda, so that, and they are trying, and I'm sorry, not trying, they did meet the qualifications to be a qualified, responsible bidder on this job.
And one reason why we're meeting today instead of going into our normal meeting in June is because there's the deadline of the end of May that we have to agree to this contract, because we're getting a significant amount of state support for this. So we had to call this special meeting today because the May 30th deadline to accept or reject the contract. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And as the attorney said, I was on the call with Ms. Bird and DOT after we had, you know, the one bidder, and they went through the process to assure us that we could go ahead and award the contract and should go ahead, and that it would just protract things, and we could stand to lose the funding from the grant that's I think is critical to the project itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the contract states that the substantial completion date is January 16th, 2024. It's basically 7 months from today. What are the consequences for missing that date?
I guess in addition to that, along with that same question, I was looking at that too, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I was thinking this was a completion date for the project, and if it is, then I have the same concern, because I was thinking it would take longer, but I was thinking this January 16th of 2024 for something else, but we need some clarification on that.
Just one second.
It's on page 3 of the initial document that we had earlier. Then it says other milestone dates in A. That's on number 5.
So we have put together, and Mrs. Bird has our outline projection timeline, if you guys would like to see that. But we do think, as long as everything flows smoothly and our architect's design are approved in a timely manner, that we could get this project completed in that amount of time.
And what are the consequences for missing that deadline? I guess that's my main question.
Is 9010.3 address that a little bit?
Say that again.
Saw it in here.
After substantial completion of the work, final completion thereof is materially delayed through no fault of the design builder or by issuance of change orders affected final completion, the owner shall, upon application by the design builder and without termination of the contract, make payment of the balance due. It seems like that it talks a little bit about it in that area, but I don't know of any penalty. Is there not any? Yeah, so I mean that would be, I guess the question that you're asking is what would be the repercussion of not finishing on time? But you're saying that you feel comfortable that you will be able to?
I feel, I mean, you know, of course, any construction project is dependent upon weather, number one, availability of materials, which is becoming easier, but as y'all all know, it has been a struggle. I do not foresee a problem with it. I do not have any action against me written in the contract, I'll tell you that. But if you guys want something, then that's up to you. But we will do our best to produce a timely timeline.
Mr. Attorney, I do have a question for you. In section 7, there's a list of the county's responsibility in this contract. Could you please just articulate in layman's terms what the county's responsibility is to make sure we have a successful project?
Well, the number one thing would be to cooperate with the builder and to fulfill our timelines. There'll be throughout the scheduling time, there'll be articles submitted such as plans and different materials and choices to be made, like what color is this wall, what type of steel, things of that nature. And that's off the cuff. The types of materials that will be used, the county would have to approve. We would have to approve that in a timely manner. If if the county were to sit on the plans for a month and not give him a definite answer whether these are approved or not approved, then certainly that would be something, we would be in breach of our duty to it. I don't see any penalties for us either, other than the fact that we're delaying a project that we want done.
All right.
Who would the site rep to determine those changes be? Who are we gonna designate as the one to agree to you're saying that the county would have to agree. Who is the county? Would it be Mr. Salzman?
Right now, I believe the project, you've been in charge of choosing what the buildings, all that stuff, right? I mean, you've been in charge of the so far and all. So I thought the department head was gonna do it. Now, if she needs to bring things back to it, huh?
Yeah, I think
Project
so.
team, okay, yeah, we can get I'm sorry, I didn't know you were involved in it too. Great. We got the project team here, which is the county manager and Tanya Bird.
Oh, okay, so
I thought somewhere I read in here that Saltzman and
I
Tanya
didn't know
were
he
in
was
there.
involved in it. I'm sorry.
It's off of page 4.
that's what I was wanting to clarify. And then the other thing would be in change order protections. You know, I'm a little concerned. Maybe what we have a certain amount that we have for this project, and of course we have to pay 20% of it. But what do you feel would be a protection of change orders from going over this? Because you said that you felt in the design build that you would stay within that price range. You're satisfied that they'll go ahead.
Well, we have to approve change orders.
Right now, the project that he's proposed is under our project proposal.
Mm-hmm.
It's currently under the grant amount that we received. We've also received an additional $1 million as well for the project, but we don't foresee even utilizing that money.
But-
Because it came under the grant amount that we have.
But the change orders, since we don't have a real clear statement of work in this thing, and I don't think you've had 100% either, so it's pretty hard to know exactly what this project is going to be. And if the change orders were to come in based on completion of the job versus just some cosmetic thing that could hold the job up, that could be a problem. I guess that would be my only concern, is that there's not really a protection. Like some design build projects have a not to exceed clause, and I'm not sure, do you feel like this one has that?
It does not have that in there.
I'll be very frank, when I was looking at these, I'm gonna give some numbers. He came in around 2.1 million as a bid. The original grant was around 2.4.
Okay.
Now it's up over a little over 3 million that somebody else didn't get their job done. I don't wanna say it that way. Someone didn't approve their money or accept their money properly, and so the state called us, said, y'all want it. So that was almost $1 million.
But is the
I'm not
20%,
saying
is,
But we have to come up with another 20% if they spend that money. You're right about that.
Yeah.
So you're getting is it $2.1 million building with, if everything goes the way it is now, and then it's going to be what's the part for the county? It's about
20%.
$20,000.
Yeah.
And we had the money set aside with our ARPA money for it.
Okay. Okay, good, okay.
So instead of 2.4 million and change, we're really talking about 2.1 million?
That's what we proposed originally, yes.
So is that what we're voting on as far as this contract is concerned? 2.1 million?
Actually, from a legal standpoint, you're voting on a contract that does have change, it does have mechanisms in here where things can be upgraded, things can be changed. The original bid, as it is right now, nothing changes, is around 2.1, or there and some change. Contracts like if something were to happen unforeseeable, let's say there's a steel shortage in China, or let's say that we decided, hey, this is coming in better than what we thought it would be. We've got this money. Why don't we add on to the garage a bit for the trucks to give added protection to our assets? Just an example of something like that. Or maybe there's some type of clearing on the land over there. I haven't been to the site, sorry. There's some type of clearing on the land that needs to be done that was unforeseen. You know, there's a big rock under there that we didn't know or something. And that's just an example of different things. Anything unforeseen, that could change. But any of these change orders will have to be submitted and approved by the design or by the team, which is Ms. Bird and Mr. Salzman. Am I answering your questions?
Sure you
I'm
are.
trying my best.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Are there any contingencies in there that through value engineering, in some ways, we could actually get this for less than the 2.1?
Yeah.
If I may, this contract, because of the nature of the design build process, it basically is a description of the request for pricing that was sent out with the descriptions of the facility that was required, and then we have the budget number in there. But the way these contracts work is, what this allows us to do is to go ahead and retain the services of the architect, the engineer, and the design team, get them to produce a set of plans. Then there's something called an Exhibit A that comes in after the fact, after the plans have been produced. Then we price off a set of drawings that everybody has approved and has agreed upon. And then the Exhibit A is attached to the end of this, and it becomes just as if it was as it was when everyone signed it. So yes, there is a possibility that there could be value engineering during the design process, and it could come up to be 2.02 or it could be 2.13 or 2.4 if you want to add anything to it. But this is not the pricing structure is not set in stone. It is based upon the budget that was provided to us and the descriptions on that RFP. So the actual nailed down pricing will happen after the drawings have been complete. This just allows us to proceed with that.
Okay. And anything over 2.1, then we would have to reapprove that then, right? As
Well,
the team
now,
would
the
have to
2.1,
reapprove.
when we put the bid in, we said that we think we can get this job done based on just the bare minimum information we were given for that amount of money.
Okay.
So once plans are, and that's us not knowing what type of finishes that you guys would like, flooring, countertops, all kinds of things that could go all over the place. But we felt confident that we could get that building built for you guys around that number.
But if it were to go over, the contract representatives would make the decision to go over, or would it have to come back to the board?
Well, what this does is this allows you, it protects us, but it protects you guys, because basically what this is saying is, when we attach Exhibit A to this, it should not exceed the budget number.
The
And
2
it
point-
should not,
okay.
and it should be pretty much what we had in our proposal, plus or minus any changes that are made during the design phase.
Change orders will have to be approved by them.
Right.
The project team has the sole discretion of
The
the
change-
change order,
yeah.
not the board of
The
commissioners.
goal would be to have the plans approved in such a way that there won't be any change orders.
That's right, yeah. Okay.
Change orders would only be under unforeseen circumstances and problems and things that nobody had any control over.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, one other question, and that is, does the $2.1 million target include landscaping?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Does it include furniture, fixings, and equipment?
We have
Fixtures, I should say.
We have all of the nailed in or hard finishes, doors, windows, etc., but we do not have any allowance for furniture,
All right,
i.e. desk and chairs.
sure. Refrigerator.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Toilets and things like that, of course, water fountains, whatever.
Certainly. And Mr. Chairman, just one last question that I have, and that is, who will provide construction oversight for this project?
And that's what I was thinking, as a site rep, or who would, that's what I'm kind of going back to my original question.
Actually, it's gonna be the project team, unless you decide otherwise. It's gonna be Miss Bird and me.
That's fine.
But do you have the technical expertise to provide project management and construction oversight?
I think so, yes, sir. I mean, essentially, could be up to a $2.5 million project. I built an airport for Concord in 33 months as their city manager, and that was initially a $25 million project. So, I also, back in my earlier days, we did a 40 million gallon a day wastewater treatment plant for the city of Concord. I mean, that's 40 million a day. The one that you have here in Anson County is 3.5 million a day.
But we'll have our permitting office throughout the project is going to be inspecting, so Keith will come through each different phase.
Every
and
phase.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'm glad you said that because Keith has already looked at what's been submitted, and he's looked at it both from a design perspective, from an architectural and also an engineer, and has said, yeah, the allowances in there are more than adequate to get the job done.
yeah.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any other questions at this time. Thank you for your indulgence.
I've just got an observation on page 17 in 7.2.9, and I'm just curious, based on the way it's stated, is unless required by the design build documents to be provided by the design builder, the owner shall, upon request from the design builder, furnish the services of geotechnical engineers or other consultants for investigation of subsurface air and water conditions when such services are reasonably necessary to properly carry out the design services furnished by the design builder. Are we doing all these things just here, or is your organization doing it?
No.
Our engineering team will be the ones to determine if those things have to be done. That's part of their process.
Okay, so then it's not likely you all gonna request the county to do these things?
No, sir.
Okay. Good.
I got one question on the additional $1 million. You don't, the project that you've got outlined now, you don't foresee using that additional funds. So,
No, that was offered to us, because someone else was not able to use it. That way, if there was some unforeseen circumstance that happened, that we needed that for a cushion, that's the only reason that is there in place. We do not foresee using that at all.
okay, but we have already requested that funding, so in other words, I guess we've got it.
Yes, I
Okay.
have the local share
Okay.
certificate here.
Okay, I wanted some clarification on the process, how to get that if we did need it, but if we've already got it, then we're good. So,
Is there a deadline on that? The $1 million is for, because like, the reason why this meeting was kind of uncomfortable is because we had this hard deadline and it kind of happened pretty quick. But in that $1 million, is there a certain time frame we have to decide if we need that or not?
No.
Oh, wow,
Till the end
okay,
of the project.
okay.
Yes, it's already still a part of the project, yes.
And if we don't use it, what happens to it? All right.
the same way we got it, somebody sent it back.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
are able, if I'm correct, we are able to use some of the money to buy furniture and things that we need as well, in addition to the construction of the facility.
Okay.
We will be able to upfit the facility.
Wow. Okay. And then we would just pay 20% of that if we were, and so we don't have to. We can use a portion of it for the furniture and just pay 20% towards the furniture from that.
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay, that's good.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no further questions, I'm prepared to make a motion that we approve the contract with two stipulations. Number one, the contract price, $2.1 million, and the completion date, January 16th, 2024.
Now, second it.
Okay, motion made, but okay.
Qualify this, you're approving this document, I haven't looked at, what are the numbers, did you?
Well, the
change
number in
something?
there is
As long as
$2,424,000.
it's in there, that's fine, I just
Yes.
wanna make sure I didn't miss something.
Right. I've
Thank you.
crossed that one out and gone the $2.1 million based on today's discussion.
Well,
Can we change
if you're
the?
gonna limit yourself,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
I don't wanna limit this, I mean, cause we've got the other money in case there's change orders and something that needs to be done. So if you want to approve, the wording in here sets the price, but it also allows for changes so you don't have to come back in. And what I'm afraid would happen, and I'm not sure about this, but I wanna be safe, when you're talking about dealing with money like this, I don't wanna lose this money because we set at 2.1 and we limit the language that's already in this contract. This is a contract, the language has been, this company, AIA, the language is built in there for this. It's set at the prices that it is, but it allows, fluid motions for the money to come in and go out. Like, you don't limit yourself by putting a ceiling on the 2.1. And I understand, I just don't want to see, I'm worried that we would get into this and then we'd be set at the 2.1 million, but if it goes over it for some reason, the language right here would be superseded by the motion. So I'd like for you to accept the contract as it is written, with those changes that would be allowed. It's more malleable that way, and it can, it's not limiting the county from getting what they want. And it does, and we won't risk limiting ourselves on this too. So if you don't mind, I'd like for that clarification here with this money, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me add one thing just a minute. I mean, I'm just thinking there was, in his motion, there was no not to exceed. So, you know, if we get to a point and it goes past that, that'll give us an opportunity to come back and look and determine what needs to, if it really needs to happen to go past that 2.1 million. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
I apologize. I took it to mean that it would not exceed that, and I just want to make sure that. I apologize. That's fine. Then if it wants to go there.
Do I need to restate my motion?
Well, like my thinking is there was no statement in your motion that said not to exceed 2.1. So that, to me, that leaves an opening that if we find out it's going past 2.1, then the board's got an opportunity to come back and look at it, you know, however many times we need to authorize it, whatever it is, going to push it over there. Is my thinking. But the attorney says we need to do different things.
And it may be that if it exceeds the 2.1, rather than Mr. Salzman and Tanya make the decision as the team, it would come back to the board, is what you're saying, right?
Yes, sir. By all
Okay,
means.
so we would clarify the motion to determine that anything over 2.1, if it's in Mr. Gatewood's proposal, I think would have to come back before the board for approval, if that's the way it is.
If you need to restate it to make that clear, that's.
I'll restate my motion.
Please accept this contract the way it is. What I don't want to do is create a situation, and it might not happen either way, but I don't want to create a situation where we've approved the contract, now we've unapproved the contract because it went over and it voids some of this money or something like that. If you don't mind, please, because the contract does say 2.4 in here. So,
Scott, if I may. Ladies and gentlemen, what this is essentially a notice to proceed at the budget number. You guys are also going to have a chance to approve when that Exhibit A is ready to go, and it will have the final amount. So we aren't agreeing to pay us 2.4 right now. We could go ahead and put her entire budget in here at 3.2 or 3.6, and then it'll be available to you. But it doesn't matter. Once the Exhibit A comes in, based on plans and specs that have been approved by everybody, then that number could still be 2.1, and we'll go through all this round again when the set in stone number comes.
And vice versa, it could be 1.8.
Correct.
That's what we're hoping.
No, I guess if we set it at 2.1, you're going to get 2.1, whether it costs you 1.2 to build it.
Exactly.
So we're probably better off not to specify a direct amount right now. Obviously, if we want to do not exceed the 3.4 million, whatever the total amount is, I can understand that. But I kind of agree. I don't know that we will need to set it at 2.1 right now. We may be losing out on that if we set it at 2.1.
But you were saying not to exceed, but you weren't setting it specifically like it has to be 2.1.
My motion said a target price of $2.1 million and a target completion date of January 16th, 2024. Realizing there could be contingencies that this board would have to approve at some point in time.
It doesn't say exceed or not exceed, so we could just go with his motion.
As long as it says explaining that it was a target, that was fine.
Yeah.
I heard something else, and that was what I want to make sure.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
So as long as it doesn't void the contract in our terminology, then we're good. Okay. So back to,
You had a motion, you had a second. I don't know if you need to.
yeah. So do you want to restate it, or do you feel satisfied that it was stated correctly?
It was stated correctly.
Okay, then we have a motion for Mr. Gatewood, second by Mr. Woodburn. Do we have a
We all gotta vote.
Okay, so I'm just making sure there's no more discussion. If there's no more discussion, then what is the vote? We have to make a motion. You made the motion, you made a motion. Does anyone, I mean, we need to accept.
All in favor?
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Oh, okay, so we're all good then, it's unanimous. So, okay. All right. Anything else for today?
Well, we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you so much for your interest in this project.
Yes. I promise you, you will be pleased.
And I had talked to Mr. Thomas in a different conversation, and he was real excited, Bruce Thomas, and like Commissioner Caudle said, he's done a lot of work in Anson County, so he mentioned that on his own when I was talking to him about something else, so.
Yeah, I look forward to getting that knowledge from Bruce passed along to me, and then in the future, I can continue to do Anson County's work.
All right.
Do you have any questions for us?
No.
All right.
A little late for that. So, I just want to say that I'm glad that we've got an Anson County native that's interested in working with the county and building the future of the county through our projects like this. I think that means a lot. If we always hear we want to give back to our citizens, well, this is the prime way to do it. You know, award contracts to native of Anson County.
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.